Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Years ago, I knew a small business owner who decided it was time to get serious about marketing. So he did what most people do. He searched online. He talked to a few agencies. He sat through some impressive presentations. One agency talked about SEO, another talked about funnels, another talked about brand storytelling. And each of them sounded smart. We've probably all been through this. Every one of them sounded convincing. So he picked one. And then 6 months later, let me rephrase that, not 6 months later, tens of thousands of dollars later, he had very little to show for it. Not because the agency was bad, but because it was the wrong agency for him. It was a little like going to the doctor and saying, I'm sick, and then the doctor immediately prescribing medicine before diagnosing the problem. That's the gap. Businesses need marketing help, but they don't know how to evaluate agencies, and agencies don't always know if they're the right fit. Today's guest built an entire business solving this exact problem, acting as the connector, the translator, and sometimes the matchmaker between companies and the marketing partner they actually need. And that's where we're going to begin today's conversation. My guest today, Baydad Jamshidi. Did I say that? Jamshidi.
Yeah.
All right. Most just call him B. We're going to go with B. He's the founder of CGM Marketing Connector. After realizing that most businesses struggle, as I've indicated, to evaluate marketing agencies or even understand what kind of marketing help they truly need, B built a company dedicated to solving this particular problem. And so over the past 7 years, he's personally assessed more than 1,100 marketing agencies and curated a network of over 100 preferred partners across virtually every marketing niche. And drawing on his background in engineering, marketing, sales, and strategy, B has become a trusted matchmaker between business owners and the marketing teams that actually will move the needle for them. So B, welcome to the show. You've evaluated 1,100 marketing agencies and built a business around connecting companies to the right one. Take us back to the beginning. What problem did you see that made you say, there's got to be a better way to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And thanks for having me on, Frank. If I were to go back in time, when I started building out like websites, Google Ads, and SEO, that's kind of like where this all started. And I very quickly realized I didn't like doing 80-hour websites on the weekend. So
Yeah.
I started looking for different marketing agencies to work with. And as I did that, I worked with one specific marketing agency, and they're really good at doing websites. Like they had a really good designer, really good web dev team, and they built amazing websites. And then the customer asked, well, I need to do Google Ads and SEO. Do you do it? And so the agency responded, of course we do. So they started working on Google Ads and SEO, and I had some knowledge on Google Ads and SEO. So as I saw them like performing the daily tasks and the things that they were focused on, I was like, this is not that great. Like their websites are really good, but they're not really good at Google Ads and SEO. And so it kind of hit me, and I was like, maybe I could find another marketing partner that does Google Ads and SEO really well, or maybe they do all three really well. And so I started kind of going on this hunt to find this like marketing agency, because at the point, all I wanted to do was just talk to businesses and matchmake. I was wondering, maybe there's 10 marketing partners in the world that do really, really good work, and I could just be the matchmaker between it. And I got to about 400 agencies when I started realizing, oh, maybe this like one agency does not exist that does everything really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And my engineering brain went, well, maybe this is a puzzle piece problem. It's knowing what a business needs based on the channels that they're trying to run, which partners do that effectively for that industry and for that service, and then matchmaking at the right time. Because I couldn't find that one marketing agency that does everything well. And so that's kind of how it kind of started. I was really just looking for a couple partners to work with. And then as I kind of kept going through, I kept meeting more and more people, realizing the solution is actually it's multiple agencies need to be used. when you're trying to get a 7 or 8 figure business to grow.
Do you find some of these agencies evolve in time? I mean, I was talking to my assistant earlier. She was talking about her daughter, totally unrelated, right? Daughter runs a daycare. The daughter loses a key piece in the daycare. You got to try and replace that key piece, and then all of a sudden, your strength in the daycare is not in the toddler section, but actually in the baby section, just based on who's zipping in and zipping out.
Yeah, that's such a good analogy. 100%. So it depends, right? Because if you're working with an agency that's like, let's say 5 to 15 people, losing one person is a massive hit because that
Yeah,
person can be in charge of the social department. It could be in charge of the paid ads. And so the smaller the agency, the more churn in the agency will affect the actual business itself. When you start getting larger, like let's say you start getting to like, 25 to 45 people in an agency, now there is some redundancy, right? There's statements of procedures in place. There's things that are built out so that if someone is lost, it's less of an effect on the business.
right.
So as the agency gets larger, that becomes less of a problem. When they're smaller, it's definitely an issue.
Okay. Um, you describe yourself as a matchmaker between businesses and marketing agencies, and maybe you don't. I'm calling you a
I do.
matchmaker. Oh, okay, good. Um, when you first talk to a company, what are the signals that you're looking for? What are the signals that tell you what kind of marketing help they actually need?
Yeah, so a lot of my time, like I used to be a sales engineer, so a lot of my work was understanding businesses at a pretty high level. And
Right,
so working with the businesses that I do now, typically they're smaller than the ones that I used to with at TELUS. And so a lot of my understanding is one, where the business is at currently today, where the business is headed, what resources they have internally, why have they failed at marketing before, right? Did they hire the wrong partners? Did they just, hire their cousin to do a lot of this stuff?
yeah,
There's a lot of businesses that funny enough get to like 7 and 8 figures with not a lot of sophistication in marketing. So understanding like where they're at and where they're going and what resources are underneath it all. And then the actual understanding of how to think about marketing. Are they thinking about it in terms of, oh, if I turn this one channel on, it should give me an ROI tomorrow? The expectations are probably not aligned. Versus like, are they thinking about marketing in terms of the overall brand, right? Like, are they like every single touch point is building our brand? We know our messaging, and they have a better sense of like how the whole marketing function works. Based on that, then it's my job to be like, here's the expectations that I can set for you. Like, if you're expecting this one channel to produce results in the next month, it's likely not going to. So don't start. But if you're
yeah,
okay with like testing it for the next 3 to 6 months and knowing that there's risk attached to it, but I'm going to give you a pretty strong partner to kind of work with them on, then that's a better chance of that customer being able to actually succeed in the thing that they're trying to succeed with. So to answer your question, essentially just understanding as much as I can about the business and the personality of the business and the people running it. And then based on that, going here are the right matches based on where you're trying to head. Because if it's a short-term thing, we're probably doing paid ads. We're probably doing things that are going to be a little more fast-paced, like cold email, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. But if it's more, we're trying to build something long term, then we start looking at the more long term activities where you're building influencer partnerships or you're building SEO to think long term, or you're playing the long term strategy of social media, right? And building out that content. Maybe you need a social strategist. So it really depends on the business.
now, again, you talked to 1,100 different agencies out there. Was this just kind of a Google search, getting a list of names and reaching out, or were you actually working a network to say, okay, this is what I'm kind of looking for?
Yeah, it's definitely working the network. Google doesn't really work very well for this.
Sure.
Neither does like the Upworks and that type of stuff. So a lot of my network is built from the ground up. And so as you start meeting agencies, start meeting people start going, oh, you need to talk to this person. You need to talk to this person. And so a lot of my recommendations, a lot of times are coming from the A-list agency owners I already know, or the fractional CMOs that I work with, or even my customers who are like, B, we worked with a ton of agencies. These guys were really good at X. And
Right.
so that's kind of why it's taken 7, 8 years to build the network that I've built because it's a lot of like inbound to me.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm part of a whole bunch of different marketing networks in the back end that businesses can't even be a part of because they're not in the marketing space. And so it's kind of like building it in that way from people referring people into me, but also having these networks in the hiding that I can
Right.
use to find the people I need to find.
Well, so you have a curated list of 100 preferred partners. Had to talk to 1,100 people. Your network is batting less than 10% and
Yeah.
getting you what you need. I don't know what that says, right? I mean, it's, hey, here's my brother or my brother-in-law. You should talk to him. He's great because we have Christmas together. I don't know, but it's not easy, right?
It's not. No, and I have a whole. It's funny because I'm doing an agency presentation on Saturday, and I have this kind of rule. It's like a 93, 6%, and then 1% rule. So like 93% of agencies are just good, and good
Right.
gets you nothing. In marketing, like if you're not in the top three of whatever industry you're in, you're not getting the lion's share, right? The 6% are like agencies that are good at one to three things and when matched well, right? And so they'll do things above and beyond. So they're above average. We'll say they're more like outstanding agencies. And then the 1% are like the exceptional agencies. These are the ones that go far above and beyond. They're a lot, they can get their customers into that like one or three spot on like an SEO SERP. When people are searching for SEO, almost 70% of the clicks go to the first three results.
Yeah.
So that means everyone else is fighting for the next 30%. And it's the same across every single type of channel that you see. The top three in social media, for example, are getting most of the views. They're going to get most of the business, and then everyone else ends up fighting for the rest of the 20 or 30%. And so it's super important to have agency partners that are at a very, very high level because they actually allow you to stand out from the competition. And it's not like a linear growth, it's actually like exponentially different.
Do you find that sometimes agencies hurt themselves by trying to be all things to all people, or just stretching too far too fast?
Yeah, it's 100% it. Like especially when they're starting out, like they're like, I get any type of business that comes in, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
evolution of an agency.
Yeah.
And then they get to the point where they start realizing, oh, we can't help all customers, but we can help this very specific type of customer with this very specific type of service. And usually you'll notice when an agency hones in on that, the retention rate increases. They're able to keep their own employees more. They're able to keep customers more.
Yeah.
And they kind of are able to scale and grow up from there. And then you'll start seeing them add in other services, but you need to do it slowly and you need to do it very intelligently because if you don't, then you're starting to add these services that don't speak to each other. And then
Right.
that whole system ends up breaking. And very, very, very few agencies can get multiple services to work well.
Yeah. But a number of thoughts running through my head as you're talking. One is, when I first started practicing law, I'm a business tax person. I quickly learned I'm not a courtroom attorney. I I'll joke about it. I'm 0-3 in court. I was horrible. But I just think you need to have a proficiency in a particular niche. And that numbers were my niche, not being the courtroom person was not my niche, nor was the divorce sort of a thing.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
true. It's
yeah,
very
it's
true. If you think about it in terms of like the agencies, I kind of separate into two areas, right? Like what you just kind of talked about is like if you're gonna be in a certain niche, let's just say the law space, right? Because you're a lawyer, you're a marketing agency for law, and that's all you do. Then
yeah,
you can probably do paid ads, SEO, help with conferences because everything you're building is to support the law space, right? The
right,
one industry. But or the other way to build an agency that will actually scale is to go, we do SEO and all we do is SEO, but we can do it for anyone because that's all we do. But we
yeah,
built systems around just doing SEO at the highest level. And if we get a new industry in, we can figure it out pretty quickly and we'll continue to move with it. I really think those are the two models that agencies can really run because it doesn't work when you go, well, we do all of these services for all of these industries, and the industries are all so different. So you have to
yeah,
have different processes and systems and strategies, and it's not possible to
yeah,
do that really well at scale.
yeah. I know a guy. All he does is SEO. Websites. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Introduce me to the website person. I can white label their SEO for them, but I don't want to. I want to be this. I want to be this one trick pony. I want to make one. I want to make the best vanilla ice cream there is. I don't
Yes.
care about chocolate. If somebody else do chocolate, I want to do vanilla ice cream. So,
100%.
you talk about deep relationships in less than 10 minutes, and that's a bold claim, right?
Yeah.
10 minutes. We before we hit record, you're married. It wasn't a 10-minute courtship, so it's a bold claim. What are you doing in those first 10 minutes that most people miss to kind of build these relationships?
Yeah, so I have a whole model around what I call amplified relationships, and so this is kind of like things that are on what I talk about on the personal side of things. So the business is CJAM. The amplified relationships is more after having met over 4,000 people and building relationships. I kind of like went, how do you build those like fast conversations and go deeper faster with people? Because that's essentially what I do. And so there's a couple things that play a part into it. One
Hmm.
is I believe that there's three levels of conversation when you're talking with someone. right? So, and I call it the depth factor. So if you're at depth factor one, this is like your typical networking. You're walking in and you're talking about the sky, where you live, like all that stuff that people don't typically like talking about. Once you start getting to depth level two, this is when you start hitting people's interests and their passions and the things that kind of excite them and they light them up
Right.
themselves a bit more, right? And these are where you can start having longer conversations with someone, right? We can talk about a specific topic. Maybe it might be health or, international travel or whatever it is. Depth level three is when you start hitting into people's core self, like who they are. So it's like their life mission, their beliefs, their values. And you can get from a depth level one to a depth level three conversation really quickly if you know how to structure conversations, right?
Hmm.
And I use little things if I'm like trying to connect with someone that I call like fish hooks that allow me to get from level one to level two really fast. And people know what an elevator pitch is, right?
Hmm.
It's a very
Yeah.
transactional pitch.
Yeah.
You go in,
Yeah.
this is who I am. Do you need my service?
Yeah.
But a fish hooks is the reverse of that. It's I'm giving you an outline of who I am and what I do. You tell me what you're interested in, and we can talk about it. So, for example, my fish hooks introduction would be something like, "My name is Bedad. I used to be an engineer. I work now as a marketing super connector. I connect businesses to the right marketing partners." Outside of that, though, I used to work with corporate clients from the Lushes of the world, not for profits, manufacturing, when I used to work full time. But I also have a deep passion for health and wellness. I play soccer, I play sports, and I've lived in the Netherlands internationally and visited 55 European cities. And so you can kind of see, like, as I'm kind of giving you a bunch of things, you can go, what are you interested in? Marketing,
Mm.
engineering, maybe we both work for corporate, maybe it's personal health, maybe it's even our travel. And it allows the person to tell me what they're interested in. So I can get from a level one to level two really, really quickly. And then from there, I'm just paying attention to what really, really excites them. And is it tied to a value or a belief or a life mission? And I can get to level three really quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as soon as you said soccer, I lit up because we're a soccer family. All three of my kids played soccer all through college. My daughter works for a professional team. We go, we have tickets. We go to games. I like American football, but Saturday morning when the Premier League is on, 7 o'clock in the morning, our TV's on, and you're on the West Coast, so you don't have that advantage. You got to get up really early to watch Premier League.
It's way too
Um,
early.
yeah, but I'll be up, we'll be making coffee, making breakfast, and it's sports is on.
Yeah,
And you can literally watch soccer, during certain parts of the year, 7 a.m. till past midnight. It's on.
right.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, right, we have a connected value. And then
Yeah.
you've told me so much about like, oh, we do it with my family and my kids play. I'm like, cool, tell me like where do
Yeah.
your kids play? Now we're building that relationship, right? And you go,
Yeah.
oh, we really get each other. It's like we
Yeah.
don't have to have the high level conversation.
Right. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is you can start to look at those things and get at just little things. Had a conversation last week with a guy, I saw on there he played soccer. It's like, all right, you had me at hello, right? This
Yeah.
is we have so much we can talk about. So anyhow, um, so you have probably seen more agencies than almost anyone else, I would imagine. Uh, and maybe you've already answered this, but what's the biggest mistake businesses make when hiring marketing agencies?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest mistakes they make, there's a bunch. One is they don't actually have their business strategy figured out first, which then leads into the marketing strategy, which then leads into who you end up hiring. A
Yeah,
lot of the times, businesses will be like, I just want to grow, and therefore I heard SEO might work. And then they go talk to an SEO agency. What are they going to sell you?
yeah,
SEO, even though it might
yeah,
not be the thing you need, right? Like that's one of the biggest mistakes, really not knowing where you're headed as a business and what channels will actually get you there. And then two is most businesses do not spend enough time vetting a good amount of agencies. So number one is businesses don't really have the network, right? You might ask
right.
into a business network, you might ask Facebook, you might go to Upwork or whatever. So the initial bunch of agencies that you're talking to are already not that high quality. And then for me, whenever I'm vetting an agency, it takes me about 15 agencies before I prove like one of them. And so most businesses, how many agencies do they meet with before they hire one?
They probably,
Maybe
they
three.
pro- yeah, they probably fall in love with the first or the second one. Well, I think it's because they don't understand, right? It's like and it's probably true of anything of contractors or accountants or anything. This person knows more than me, therefore they're probably the person for the job, right?
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah. And it's funny because like when I was hiring my accountant, I don't have a massive accounting network. I do have a pretty solid network at this point. So I reached out and I got like 25 people telling me different accounting people to use. And I was like, cool. How am I going to challenge this? The same way I go through my marketing stuff. I'm going to talk to a bunch of people, get a sense of like how much people are charging and what they're saying and where I need what and etc. And then I ended up picking my accounting firm and knock on wood. I've been working with them for 2.5 years and they've done a fantastic job. But it's
Yeah.
because I didn't just talk to the first two or three. I talked to like 15 plus.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, both of us know, like you bring on a partner, you ramp them up, they end up not being good, and then you got to find someone else. It's just so much wasted time and effort,
Yeah.
and it just slows the business down.
Well, I'm going through something right now with my IT provider, right? It's like, oh, I've got to get rid of one and start. It's gut wrenching because I like the people, right? I like who I'm working with. They're just not getting the job done.
Mm,
They're I think they're growing too fast. I don't know what it is. Obviously, I'm not going to name them. They're good people. I You hate breaking up, right? I hate
yeah.
breaking up. It's not. It's it takes a lot of mental energy, and then finding somebody else, trying to kind of bridge that gap in the meantime. So you're better off just finding the right person to begin with. And I did have the right person. He went into business with these people, and they bought him out. So it's not like I
Oh no.
chose them. It just
Yeah.
happened. Um, so your entire business is built on connecting people to the right people. From a networking perspective, what have you learned about great connections, about how, I guess let me put it this way, how great connections build trust quickly?
That's how great connections build trust quickly. I think it really comes down to, well, number one, where I can connect with someone really, really quickly is when someone understands who they are. Like, I think
Right.
that's the foundational element of everything. The more you understand who you are, how you operate, what your beliefs, your values, your life mission are, I think you become confident in, and as you become confident in who you are, you're able to be more vulnerable. Some of the best people, some of the best connectors I know are very vulnerable. And so am I, right? Like I'll share things with someone and be like, here's kind of where I'm at. Um, and the more you understand who you are, it allows you to understand other people better, right? Because you've done a
Yeah.
certain amount of internal work. Someone will
Yeah.
say something and it'll be like, oh, they've done a certain amount of work to be able to get to that statement that they just said. We can skip all the high level stuff. We can just get into it, you know? And I think some of the best connectors are people who have a really good understanding of who they are and are very curious about the other person and are vulnerable at the same time. And those are kind of like the traits that I see being a really, really good connector. And when it comes to like the super connection space, the super connector space, I think there's like three different types of super connectors. Have you heard of super connectors before?
I've heard people throw the term around. I network for a living. I mean, that's what my business is, and I don't know that I call myself a super connector. It's like calling yourself a 10, right? I'm a 10.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so, but I've heard people, I know there are people out there that are great. Jennifer connected us, right?
100%.
She's a
Yeah.
super connector.
Yeah. It's
I
when
had a
other
conversation.
people call the person a super connector where they become a super connector.
Yeah, right. Well, that's my definition for her. She was on my podcast. How can I help you? Well, I'm interested in other people, and here's, what podcast is about, and she's sitting there, and she's out. You had to be there, I guess, or maybe you have seen it. She's kind of dictating emails. Just be quiet, Frank. She's dictating emails. Hey, B, I'm going to connect you with Frank. The two of you need to talk, right? I've got 7 emails coming my way before we hung up the Zoom call. It was crazy. She's a
That's
super
exactly it.
connector, you know?
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I don't like the word, but it's just what people understand. So it's
Yeah.
like, and so I think like when someone asks me a question like how do people connect really well, I start thinking about these super connectors, right? And I think there's three different types of super connectors,
Please.
as far as I've found. And the first one you have is like almost I call it transactional super connector. It's someone who has a big network, finds someone else that has a network and goes, how does my network help you and vice versa, right? And it's typically more of a transactional feeling, right? The second type of superconnector, I kind of call it like the magnetic superconnector. So this is a person where the core of what they do is not connecting, but they do something really well that people get attracted to them. So it could be they run a podcast, they could run events, right? Mind that people are like, I know another superconnector who just is a brilliant thinker. And I'm like, you guys need to meet because this guy just the way he thinks is different, right? So something gets attracted to them. And then the third type, I believe there's like an intuitive superconnector. This is just someone who like genuinely loves to connect with people, loves to connect people together. Their brain just works in connection. And I think all superconnectors have a little bit of all three because you almost
Right.
have to, but there's a dominant one typically. And so I kind of think about it in that sense. And when you think about it that way, you go, okay, well, there's different ways for people to connect, and everyone has their own flavor of doing it.
Yeah. No. Okay. Fair answer. Fair answer. All right. You have all these marketing agencies or 100 curated agencies. Nobody wants to talk to the other 900 or whatever. I guess 1,000.
Yeah.
Doing the math. And so if someone here, a business owner listening today, really wants to be connected to somebody good, they should contact you, and I'm going to have you provide your contact information. But even before that, what's the first step they should do before they even contact you, or certainly contact an agency?
Yeah, I mean, the first step, I really am the gate aspect of it. It's like if you come in, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and make sure your thinking is clear. So having your business strategy and where you want to go, like if you have that, then we can start talking about the strategies to get you there. And sometimes it might not even be marketing, right? Like sometimes I get B2B businesses come to me and I go, you just need to build out your sales team for this. Like this is
Yeah.
very much like a account-based marketing strategy where marketing is like secondary. Like you just need to get your sales guys organized, right? Or it's like maybe you need someone in-house for that. So as long as I know where you're trying to head to and I get to understand the business, I can go based on that. This is the way that I would approach it. And that way it provides a little bit more of a clear guideline. And then I also like to give them the upfront expectations of like, if you're going down this path, this is what it looks like. And are you ready to go through that? And if the answer is yes, that's when we end up working together. If the answer is no, it's like, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. And this is potentially how you can approach it until you get to that point.
Love it. How can somebody get a hold of you?
The best ways are through my website, so www.cjammarketing.com. So that's CJAM marketing.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn underneath Beta Jamshidi. I put a lot of content there as well. And so those would be the two places. And if people want resources, I have a bunch of like resources at the bottom of my website around like how to ask the right agency questions. You're about to hire a paid ads agency, what to think about. Those are free resources that people can grab for themselves as well.
Love it. Love it. I will certainly get your website in the show notes. Thank you for taking the time today. Thank you, Jennifer, for connecting us. But I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.